Hello, I am Dr. Ajay Sharma, Department of Electronics and Communication Engineering, the James Engineering Management Technical Campus, Greater Noida. The subject that I teach in this semester, BTech 7th semester, is Optoelectronics and Optical Communication. And the topic that I discuss today is absorption and scattering. What is absorption actually, and what is the reason behind absorption? The main cause of absorption is the material of optical fiber from which this optical fiber are made. And absorption is a type of attenuation, right? Means it attenuates optical signal. So absorption nothing but it's a attenuation that creates a loss in signal power. And when absorption come in the picture, when signal loss its power, and power or energy can't be created nor be destroyed. From that principle, this absorption creates a heat. So light energy converted into heat, and after that, the optical fiber is heated. Right? So absorption is a kind of attenuation of optical fiber. And absorption in optical fiber is explained by three factors. First, imperfection in the atomic structure of the fiber material. Means the materials that are used in the manufacturing of optical fiber, their atomic structures are imperfect. So number one point is imperfection in the atomic structure of the optical fiber. Second one is intrinsic or basic fiber material properties. Means the materials that are used in the manufacturing of optical fiber that create absorption, and that absorption come in the category of intrinsic absorption, because this absorption is due to the intrinsic or internal materials of optical fiber, and you cannot avoid this because these materials are used in the manufacturing process, right? Third one is extrinsic fiber material properties. Means during manufacturing process, certain impurities are added in the optical fiber, and these external impurities are responsible for the absorption, and that absorption come in the category of extrinsic absorption. Intrinsic and extrinsic absorption that we will discuss later in this lecture. So basically absorption is nothing but it's a attenuation, and because of absorption there is a loss of power, the energy is decreased, light energy is decreased because certain part of the light energy converted to heat, and this is a loss of optical energy in optical fiber, and that is absorption. Try to understand what is intrinsic absorption and extrinsic absorption. Intrinsic absorption is caused by basic fiber material properties. If an optical fiber were absolutely pure with no imperfections or impurities, then all absorption would be intrinsic. Intrinsic absorption sets the minimal level of absorption. Try to understand this intrinsic absorption. When you say that there is no impurities in optical fiber, even then absorption come in the picture. But that absorption is minimum because it is solely due to the internal material of the optical fiber, right? So you cannot avoid this intrinsic absorption. This come in optical fiber 100% because you can't, separate the materials that are used in the manufacturing process of optical fiber. So if you say that, if you assume that there is no impurities in optical fiber, then this intrinsic absorption come in the picture, and this intrinsic absorption is due to the material that are used in the manufacturing process of optical fiber. And in optical fiber, silica is the base material that are used. Silica means pure glass because optical fibers are made from glass, or sometimes you say mixture of glass and a plastic. So silica is to be there. But the good thing is that silica offer very low absorption. Silica considered to be a very low intrinsic material. Low intrinsic material absorption creates at the wavelength of operation. So in fiber optics, silica, which we call as a pure glass fibers, are used predominantly. Silica fibers are used because of their low intrinsic material absorption. Now come to the extrinsic absorption. Extrinsic absorption is caused by impurities introduced into the fiber material, such as iron, nickel, chromium are introduced into the fiber during fabrication. So during fabrication process of optical fiber, there is impact of some external impurities, such as nickel, chromium, and iron, and that creates an absorption. So that absorption comes in the category of extrinsic absorption because it is mainly due to the external elements or the material that are mixed into the optical fiber during fabrication process. So the absorption, this type of absorption is called extrinsic absorption. So extrinsic absorption is caused by the electronic transition of these metal ions from one energy level to another. Actually, the main cause of extrinsic absorption is the OH ions. This OH ion found in water. Actually, what happens during the fabrication process of optical fiber, and we already used a glass for that. So to get the shape of fiber, this fiber is in molten state. This glass in the molten state, and after get the shape of this cylindrical shape, what we do, we have to cool down this molten state. So there is an impact of water on that molten state, and because of the impact of water and OH ion found in water, so this OH ion are stuck into the optical fiber, and that creates a main cause of extrinsic absorption. So OH ion come externally through the water because of the impact of water to the optical fiber, which is in molten state. Sometimes for cool down, for cooling purpose, there is impact of water on that. So OH ions come in the picture, and this OH ion is stuck to the optical fiber, and that creates an absorption, and that absorption is called extrinsic absorption. And this is also be true that if the amount of impurities in a fiber is reduced by somehow, then obviously we reduce the attenuation, because we reduce the absorption, ultimately reduce the attenuation. Absorption is a type of attenuation. So what we actually want when during the manufacturing or the fabrication process of optical fiber, we have to minimize these impurities that is coming from outside. So the absorption is to be at least external absorption is reduced, and finally the attenuation is reduced. So once the power on optical fiber is reduced to a point where the receiver is unable to detect the pulse and error occur. Now, when error occur in a communication, especially in optical communication, actually receiver just take a decision whether 0 is received or 1 is is received. But what happened because of the absorption, because of the attenuation, the signal energy or power is reduced, and sometimes the energy of the pulses, because pulses means normally we use on-off keying method, on-off keying method of modulation, where on means presence of light, represent 1, and off means darkness, or you say absence of light, represented as 0. So error come in the picture when your receiver reads 0 as 1 or sometimes 1 as 0, and that is the error. This is the only two possibilities: either receiver read 1 as 0 or 0 as 1, right? So when the power of the pulses are reduced, up below the threshold, means 0, the pulse 1, which has a sufficient amount of amplitude, because amplitude is reduced means power is reduced. So that amplitude of 1 sometimes is below the threshold. So the receiver sometimes read as 0 because the power of these pulses are reduced below the threshold. So look at the picture. Look at this picture. Look at this picture. So because of the absorption created by this optical fiber, the energy levels are reduced. Because of that, for example, if this is a threshold, so the amplitude of 1 are below threshold. So receiver read as sometimes 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, right? Because of the loss of energy, the signal amplitude are also decreases because of the increase in loss, because of the absorption, because of the attenuation, and there is a error come in the picture. Second is the method is dispersion. Dispersion means spread of the pulses. This is the tendency of the optical pulses to broaden as they travel along the optical fiber. When they are broadened means every pulse has its own time slot. So sometimes because of the broadening, the particular pulse broadened and cross its limits in terms of time, and come to the neighbor pulse, come to the time period of the neighbor pulse, and that creates overlapping. So that overlapping is because of the dispersion, because of the spreading, because of the broadening of the pulse in optical fiber. This is called dispersion. Dispersion means broadening or spreading of the pulse, and that creates a overlapping. And sometimes receiver have confused to give a better result. Sometimes creates a problem. Sometimes it gives a wrong output or error come in the picture because of the dispersion, right? So these are two factors. There are various forms of attenuation actually. Absorption is also attenuation. Dispersion is attenuation. And third category is scattering. Look at this scattering. Basically, scattering losses are caused by the interaction of light with densities fluctuation within a fiber. So density changes are produced with optical fiber and manufactured. When actually when optical fiber are fabricated or manufactured, there is a fluctuation in the density of the material. Some part have a high density of material, some part have a less density of material. So there is a density fluctuation, and because of that, scattering occurs. Scattering means the light is scattered all parts of the core region. Not focus on a particular line, but scatter all around. And because of that scatter, some part of the light is come to the cladding region or out of the cladding region, and that is a leakage. And that creates a loss of energy, right? This is called scattering. So during manufacturing, region of higher and lower molecular densities are areas related to the average density of the fiber are created. Lights traveling through the fiber interacts with the density area. So in that particular picture, if the light found there is some fluctuation in the density, and that part of the optical fiber scattering occurs, or the lights scatter all around and comes to the cladding region of the optical fiber, and that creates a loss because the energy is leaked. The scattering basically of two types: Rayleigh scattering and Mean scattering. How we define the Rayleigh scattering? Rayleigh scattering occurs when the size of the density fluctuations is less than 1/10 of the operating wavelength of light. So this is called Rayleigh scattering. Rayleigh scattering, the fluctuation density have a certain size, and that size is less than 1/10 part of the operating wavelength. The operating wavelength normally in optical communication is 700 nanometer and 600 nanometer, 1600 nanometer. So these are the windows that we use in optical fiber. So scattering is of two types: Rayleigh scattering that we already discussed, and second one is Mean scattering. And what is Mean scattering? If the size of the defect or the density fluctuation is greater than 1/10 of the wavelength of light, the scattering mechanism is called Mean scattering. Right. So this is the opposite of the Rayleigh scattering. So Mean scattering caused by these large defects in the fiber core scatter light out of the fiber core that we already discussed, because light is coming out of the optical fiber because of scattering. However, in commercial fibers, the effect of Mean scattering are insignificant. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.